Does Trump really want Canada? And what if he does? This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
From joking and trolling to something more serious. For weeks, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has been trolling Canada. He's been posting on social media about Canada becoming the 51st state. He's suggested Prime Minister Trudeau could be the governor, or maybe hockey legend Wayne Gretzky could be the governor of the 51st state. But now what seemed to many to be a joke isn't so funny anymore. During a news conference held at his estate in Florida yesterday, Donald Trump was asked if he would use military force to take over Canada. He said he wouldn't, but he would use economic force to make Canada the 51st state.
You're serious about making Canada 51st state of the United States. The leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstances will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir Lopez, you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit.
Trump went on to say that he explained all of this to Prime Minister Trudeau, or in Trump's words, Governor Trudeau.
But why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. You know, they send us hundreds of thousands of cars. They make a lot of money with that. They send us a lot of other things that we don't need. We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. We got a lot of everything, and we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit, and we're doing it because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors, but we can't do it forever, and it's a tremendous amount of money.
The reaction to those remarks from various Canadian leaders was almost immediate. Justin Trudeau took to social media to say, quote, there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh posted a video on social media calling for counter tariffs to stand up to Donald Trump, calling Trump a bully.
Bullies only understand strength. They only understand strength and pain. So you have to make sure you're standing up and showing that if you want to take that decision to fight with us, to pick a fight with us, it's going to hurt you too. And so I want to issue a challenge actually on your show today. For anyone that's running for prime minister, I've committed that Canada would respond with retaliatory tariffs. If Trump imposes tariffs on Canada, we should respond with tariffs. That's how you respond to a bully. You got to respond with strength.
And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre posted a statement on social media saying, quote, Canada will never be the 51st state, period. We are a great and independent country, echoing comments he made on this show just before Christmas.
Canada will never be the 51st state of the U.S. We have a heroic past, a great people, and a brilliant future as an independent country. We happen to live next to the biggest economic and military superpower the world has ever seen. But the president has concerns about our border and our military.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford, meantime, was back on American cable news, telling Fox News host Jesse Waters that Canada is not for sale.
Yeah, what's your problem with the United States absorbing Canada? Well, first of all, Jesse, I love the U.S. I love Americans, and I get it. President-elect Trump is a real estate tycoon. He's made billions, but that property's not for sale. As simple as that. But I have a better idea, Jesse. Why don't we create Fortress AmCan and make sure it's the richest, wealthiest, most prosperous jurisdiction in the two countries anywhere in the world? We have the critical minerals, we have the energy, we have the electricity that America needs. And there's only one place I'd want to sell it to, and that's the U.S.
Well, you could sell it to us, or we could all own it together, and that's a choice we can all make together. You say this isn't for sale, but everything has a price. The $1 Million Man says that. Can you think of this more as a merger instead of an acquisition? Don't think about being taken over. Think about this as a coming together.
Yeah, we can come together on a great trade deal. We're two greatest countries in the world. Do you know what the problem is? I've lived 20 years in the U.S. Matter of fact, I spent a lot of time in Philly, where you did, for 7 years, and in Chicago. There's not one American that I speak to out there, Jesse, that has a problem with Canada. Do you know what the problem is? China's the problem.
Jesse Waters from Fox News actually has a thing for Canada.
Canada. At first I wanted it, and I tried to divide it into two states. Mm-hmm. And then I realized we'd be adding Montana, basically, for the Republicans, and electorally like a Texas for the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that. But the fact that they don't want us to take them over makes me want to invade. I want to quench my imperialist thirst.
But does Donald Trump have an imperialist thirst? During yesterday's news conference in Florida, he wouldn't rule out using military force to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal. And there is a news report today from CNN that Trump is considering declaring a national economic emergency as a legal justification for tariffs on Canada and other countries. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Well, he is back from the sunny and warm south with a hot take on a cold Ottawa day. Professor Ian Lee is here from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. How do you like those 40-degree temperature swings, Professor? Yes. Good to hear from you. Yeah, that's quite something. You were just in Miami, Florida, and back in Ottawa, where we've been dealing with very, very cold temperatures. But great timing to have you back on with us today. I want to focus on the remarks from U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, saying he would use economic force against Canada. What is Trump doing here? What is he up to with this fascination with Canada?
I have a different take from probably many other people, not maybe everybody, but most people. I don't believe he's serious. I don't believe that this is, quote, formal policy or his policy for Canada. I think it can be explained because of due to what I think is an extraordinarily toxic relationship between Justin Trudeau and Trump. And no, I'm not blaming it all on Trudeau. There's a codependency between the two of them. They loathe each other, partly for philosophical, ideological grounds. Trudeau is a very, very left-of-center liberal. We all know that. He brags he's a progressive liberal, and he's the most left-of-center prime minister in modern times in Canada, probably in the history of Canada. And Trump, as we all know, is extremely conservative. But beyond that, they're oil and water, and they both gone out of their way to insult the other. And I think this latest round, the 51st state and so forth, is his payback, or I'm going to poke that guy in the eye, Trudeau in the eye, because Trudeau stood up a week or 2 weeks ago in Toronto and said the United States made a huge mistake in electing Donald Trump. And so I think that this is what we're witnessing is in a very public tit for tat between the two of them at a very high level, but they're using public policy rather than just calling each other names. They're using public policy as their weapons of choice, if I can put it that way. So Rob, let me restate this. I believe that once Trudeau actually leaves office, no matter who becomes the prime minister, whether it's an interim or whether it's Carney who's elected or Poilievre's elected, I believe the relationship will be very, very different. And I believe this toxicity and the name calling and the put downs will, I don't want to say they'll vanish, but I think they'll diminish by probably 95 or 98%.
That it's personal. You think it's
personal? It's very personal. Yes.
Okay. When it comes to the
ideological.
Okay, but when it comes to MAGA, Make America Great Again, and his vision for the American economy, how does Canada fit into that? What does he want from Canada?
I'm not trying to trivialize or dismiss his very American-centric vision of the world. I'm not trying to suggest he's setting that aside. I'm just saying that the latest particular comments are because of this toxicity. Having said that, I do believe he is going to announce tariffs when he's sworn in, partly because Trudeau will still be the prime minister, remember. Trudeau's going to be there. We don't know for how long, until March, I don't know. So he will put the tariffs in, and it will be very, very destructive for us, harmful. And as I said, I think you and I have talked about this, and I'm saying that because I've talked to several journalists about this. My take on this: the tariffs per se on manufactured goods. Yes, it's important. Yes, it's big. But manufacturing is only 12% of Canadian GDP. It's declined dramatically in the last 40 years from a third of the economy to about 12%, which is not that much. We're overwhelmingly a services economy. But that does not mean that the tariffs won't have a huge negative impact. They will. But the impact, the mechanism whereby it's going to hurt everybody in Canada is through the exchange rate. The moment that Trump signs with his magic pen, as I like to call it, the executive pen, signs the order in council or whatever, the executive order imposing those tariffs, the currency markets are going to respond instantaneously. I mean in a nanosecond instantaneously. None of this 2-week lag, 6-week lag, 2-month lag with interest rates. It will be instantaneous, and it will crash the Canadian dollar. I mean really seriously crash the Canadian dollar. And Canada imports 1/3 of our GDP. 2.5 trillion GDP, so about $1 trillion is imported. Not just the obvious, fruit and vegetables in the winter like blueberries. We import everything from John Deere tractors to laptops to clothing. You name it, we import it. And so every last Canadian, whether they work in manufacturing or not, is irrelevant, will face dramatic increases in the prices of goods. I've seen some estimates as high as a 25% increase in goods costs. And some people are, I think, wrongly suggesting, well, then the Bank of Canada will respond by cutting interest rates. I completely disagree. This experience of a country where they've had some huge shock to their system that's caused their currency to go down. Argentina's experienced this multiple times over the last 50 years.
Usually the central bank would move in to support the currency, to lift the currency.
Interest rates.
By raising the rates,
because you're trying to strengthen or stabilize the currency against the U.S. dollar. So I would, if we do see this, the tariffs are announced, Canadian dollar crashes, I think the Canadian dollar the Bank of Canada is going to have to intervene with interest rate increases. This is exactly what Russia's doing as we speak. They drove the interest rate up to 23%, the central bank rate, because the ruble was crashing and causing prices to go through the roof.
All right, let's stop here. It's it's a very kind of bleak scenario there that you're outlining. So what do we have to offer to avoid some of this? What could be on the table? Okay, Mr. Trump, if you want to negotiate, let's negotiate, and here's what we have to offer. When we come back with Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. What do we have to offer the Trump administration? What could we put on the table, Canada?
I am very opposed to some of the op-eds, such as Peter Donalow, former Liberal big shot, wrote an op-ed saying basically, let's go mano a mano and poke him in the eye and get into the boxing ring, metaphorically speaking, and we're going to get into a big fight and we're going to really suck to Donald Trump. This is beyond idiotic. This is delusional. This is what I call liberal, progressive, toxic masculinity. It is completely unsupportable. Why? The U.S. is the colossus of the world at $28 trillion GDP. We are $2 trillion. This argument that we should go with Trump, with retaliation, tariff retaliation, Chrystia Freeland is advocating this too, by the way, and several other liberals, is about as intelligent as a kid who's 6 or 8 or 9 years old playing pee-wee hockey saying he wants to get into a fight with the biggest, baddest, meanest NHL enforcer who's 6'4" in the NHL. That's not a fight. You'll get squashed. We're like a bug on the windshield. We will lose in any trade war with the U.S. We will get annihilated. So instead of using our brawn, we got to use our brains, our intelligence.
Okay,
and we have
90
to
seconds.
negotiate. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Negotiate a deal. So what do we have to offer? Your question. We have a lot to offer. There are things that have irritated the Americans for 35 years, published annually in the U.S. Trade Rep Report to Congress, which is a public document for the world that lists the trade irritants starting with dairy. And it's in their report, not Ian Lee. This is their report. Drives them crazy that American dairy products and eggs and so forth cannot be exported to Canada. Telecom, we will not allow American companies to do business here. The tax, the digital tax on Google and Meta and so forth. There's about 7 industries that are protected or quasi-protected that have been listed since Clinton was president in the 90s. Okay. Right. And we should go there, the next prime minister should, after the next election, should go to Trump and say, look, you are the deal guy. You wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. You, Mr. Trump, see yourself as a wheeler, dealer, deal maker. We are here to do a deal with you. This is what you do, Mr. Trump. You've been doing this since you were in New York real estate 40 years ago. This is his core being. We've got to use our brains instead of saying we're going to get into the boxing ring and get into a trade war. And then we can say we want access, full access to the American market. He's going to demand that we go to 2% defense spending on NATO like overnight. We're going to have to agree. We've been actually promising to do it for 30 or 40 years, for goodness sake. And we're going to have to give up, I'm sure, most or all of those 5 or 6 or 7 protected industries in exchange for no tariffs and full access to the American market. I'm sketching out a broad outline of the detail of the deal,
a broad strategy,
without getting into the details.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm sure it won't be the last we speak about this, Professor, as the new year begins for you and me. Thank you so much.
My
Great
pleasure.
to hear from you today. Yeah, bye-bye. Professor Ian Lee, one of our weekly contributors here on Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio. The Newsday Panel.
Yes, it is time for our daily Newsday panel. Kate Harrison is Vice Chair at Summa Strategies. Welcome back, Kate. Great to hear from you.
Good to be here, Rob. How are you?
And
Happy New Year.
I'm great. Thank you. Same to you. Cam Holmstrom is Principal at Neepaway Strategies. Welcome back, Cam. Good to hear from you today.
Good to be here, Rob.
So I know it's hard to get into the brain of Donald Trump, but what do you think he's up to with these remarks about Canada? Do you think we've moved beyond, say, some kind of joking, trolling stage into something more serious? What would you say, Kate?
The joke is old. It's stale. I am not as apathetic in terms of thinking that we're ripe for an invasion at a moment's notice. But I think that Trump is seizing upon what he perceives to be, and I think that there is some truth to Canada's weakness. He sees that we are without a leader. We have no one sitting at the negotiating table on our behalf with Justin Trudeau's resignation. And we've also been not holding up our end of the relationship in terms of taking issues of shared concern seriously. We haven't been near as proactive and strong on border items, for instance, that we need to be. And Trudeau blew up his own plan for the border with prorogation. None of that activity is going to see the light of day. So I think he is having some fun with us, but it is rooted in a disrespect for Canada, because we have not been the friend and ally to the United States that perhaps we could have been over the last many number of years.
Disrespect and disappointment or irritation.
Yeah, frustration with how Canada has been in this relationship, and loop into that NATO defense spending targets, for example. There's been a number of times where we have not been the friend and ally that I think we have leaned on the U.S. to be for us.
Okay, what do you think, Cam?
I don't think it's funny, and I don't think he's joking. I never thought he was. And I would disagree with Kate on this point. I really don't think it matters what we've done or what we haven't done. He doesn't look at us that way. He never has. And he definitely doesn't respect us. That's clear. But it has nothing to do with NATO targets or whatever at this point, because he's just going to do what he wants to do. And let's be honest, he's a real estate developer. He sees lots of land. He sees land with fresh water, with lots of resources, going all the way up to the Arctic. That's what he sees. And I think that's how he's looking at this. Really, at the end of the day, and to kind of drive the point home, even in his weird press conference yesterday, when the one reporter basically pointed out that Pierre Poilievre, is even against us, his own words were, I don't care. Well, he doesn't matter, right? This isn't a Trudeau thing. I guess is my point on the matter. This just isn't that. I think this is him looking at it. Yeah. If we're to say it's a political personality thing, you could look at the Danes as the same thing. What the hell have the Danes ever done to deserve all this talk about Greenland? At the end of the day, I think it's a selfish person saying, I see something, I want it, I'm going to make it happen. And what's scaring me about what's happening, it's not just him off saying these things, it's those around him and the echo chambers around him now maximizing it. I watched the interview, the clip from the interview with Doug Ford on Fox News last night. I swear to God, that was like watching some of Russian television January 2020 before they invaded Ukraine. I'm not saying they're coming to invade us tomorrow or anytime soon, but it was that same kind of tone of, you know what, they're not real. They don't care. It's just an arbitrary line. Of course, they want to be us. They want to be part of us. They would be privileged to be part of us. In fact, I get more upset that you don't want to be part of us.
You will welcome us as liberators, kind of thing, right? Okay. So, let's think about the current situation in Canada. The Parliament is prorogued. We have various high-ranking Liberals, although Dominic LeBlanc not among them. We learned that today. We can talk a little bit more about that later. But jockeying to replace Justin Trudeau, Mr. Trudeau, on the way out the door. How does that complicate matters, Cam, in your opinion? Just the current state of affairs in Ottawa.
It's terrible. I wrote a piece about this on Monday when he announced his resignation. The fact of the matter is that he has, because he held on for so long and refused to accept reality, he put us all in this position, and it's all for his own selfishness. The fact of the matter is that it didn't matter what he did at this point. By resigning, it put us on one path. If he had stayed, it would have been another unstable path, and if we went straight to an election, we would still be without a government for at least a month going into Donald Trump's first term. Because Justin Trudeau refused to walk away in the summer and actually allow these things to happen before that election happened and clear through the system, now it's all happening at the absolute worst time when we all need to be focused and pulling together in the same direction.
Kate, what do you think about how the situation in Ottawa kind of complicates things here?
The comparison is being made a lot to Joe Biden, kind of leaving the party with a couple months to scramble. At least Joe Biden left the Democrats with a better polling position than Justin Trudeau. Like, Joe Biden was not down 25 points to the Republicans. It was more like 6 or 7, depending on the poll that you were looking at. So, I think that Cam is quite right. Trudeau has left his party in a horrible position, basically an impossible scenario for an incoming successor to the Liberal Party to demonstrate any kind of separation from Trudeau and give them a fair shake at running. But he's left Canada in an incredibly precarious position. For all of those that were saying, in the fall and around Christmas that it wasn't the right time to go to an election, well, I would challenge any of those folks to say that we're in a better position now and that we wouldn't have been better served by at least giving somebody a mandate to lead the country through one of what may be the most difficult periods in our relationship with the United States. So he has been selfish through and through, both with Canada's interests and that of his own party.
Okay, we'll be right back. Turn our attention a little bit more to the departure of Mr. Trudeau, his intention to resign, and who might replace him. We know one name is off the list, Dominic LeBlanc, Mr. Trudeau's longtime friend, going back to his childhood, and minister of everything in the government these days, saying, I'm out. But who could still be in this thing? When we come back, this is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Back with our Newsday panel on this Wednesday. Kate Harrison is Vice Chair at Summa Strategies. Cam Holmstrom is Principal at Neepaway Strategies. Okay, let's turn our attention to a Liberal leadership race. What is your reaction? I mean, the big news today is Dominic LeBlanc is not going to run, saying his focus needs to be on the matter at hand, the threat of Trump tariffs. He's also the Minister of Finance now after Chrystia Freeland's resignation. What is your reaction to that, Kate?
I think it's probably good news for the Conservatives. My personal view is that, somebody like a Dominic LeBlanc would have been probably the most formidable contender within cabinet to take on that role. I think that whoever is coming into this is going to have a very hard time differentiating themselves from Trudeau and the baggage that comes with him. And LeBlanc would have had that challenge, but he's a capable communicator, obviously fluently bilingual, and from a part of the country that the Liberals have traditionally enjoyed considerable support. So I think he is a smart man for setting this one out at this point in time. And I think if he were to pursue something in the future, that would be a formidable contest. But I do come back to just the impossible situation, Rob, that Trudeau has created for whomever his successor may be. And I think it needs to be noted that the rules here that the Liberal Party comes up with to determine, their selection process will be very telling in terms of who is most likely to win. If they set an incredibly high fee, for example, to get a foot in the door.
This number is out there
race.
Just to enter the race. Pardon me, Kate. Just to enter the race, you might have to come up with a $500,000 down payment, so to speak.
Yeah, that is the exact opposite of what the Liberal Party should be doing, particularly in a shortened contest. If this is to be the robust national contest that the Prime Minister proclaimed it should be a tenth of that. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a limited field, and we already know who the names would be that could meet that barrier to entry. Of course, it's going to be Mark Carney, perhaps Chrystia Freeland, and maybe throw in one other for good measure. But to me, that would be basically setting up an effective, if not a coronation, an artificially small contest that is designed to reward the establishment, when really the Liberal Party should be thinking not just about this election, but who's actually going to be dedicated to rebuilding that party, not just who wants to be Prime Minister for 72 hours.
I could not agree more. What do you think, Cam?
Oh, I have two thoughts on this. First, I think Dom LeBlanc is an eminently strong politician, and I think he would be great. But I think the problem is that to me, the people with the best chance come down to the furthest degree of separation that you have from this Prime Minister. And of all the people named, outside of Chrystia Freeland, I think probably Dominic LeBlanc has the closest connection to him, probably closer than Minister Freeland, because they have so much history. Hell, he was the former prime minister's babysitter, right? Like, let's just be real. Like that, to me, you can't get much closer. So I think that was always going to drag him down. And really, when it comes down to it, when you look at who could be the best one to be the foil of that, I think it'd be a Chris Clark, personally. But honestly, to me, this feels a lot like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, to borrow a metaphor, because it feels like we're navel gazing. Yeah, I agree. You know what? The rules of who can get in and how much it costs to get in are important, right? Under normal circumstances, I would totally agree. We should focus on that. It would seem weird to me to have a $500,000 entry fee for a contest with free memberships. Like, that to me seems totally contrary. But what I can't help think of is the circumstances and the context under which it's happening. The fact of the matter is that the real world is going on around us while we're doing this navel gazing exercise. And the only reason why we're doing it, we're having to go through it now, is because a certain individual couldn't take the hint 6-8 months ago when he should have, and couldn't swallow his own pride and walk away for the good of the whole country. Now we got to do this and look at each other while this big elephant foot just hovers over our head, getting ready to squash us.
Yeah, good point. Do you think that they can get a leadership race settled, a new leader installed by March 24th, Cam?
Yeah, I honestly, here's the thing about this, right?
Okay.
I've always laughed at this, because you know what? So other jurisdictions, especially other British parliamentary traditional jurisdictions, do this quicker than we have, and they always have, right? We've been the outlier that it had to be so long, and yada yada yada. In today's day and age, with technology being what it is, and the fact that, let's be honest, you don't have, people aren't having to pay for membership, so it's not like you're having to count all that money coming in and dealing with all of that. Like, in theory, you should be able to pull this off quick. It doesn't need to be a coronation, as in the caucus says that's who it is, like Mike Ignatieff. But to pull this off in 6-8 weeks, yeah, I think it can be done.
You think it can be done and all wrapped up and settled by March 24th, when the House is supposed to get back into action, Kate?
Yeah, I think so. But one of the, variables that the Prime Minister spoke about, or one of the factors that he spoke about anyway, Rob, will have to give. Like, you cannot have a robust contest in 4 or 5 weeks. Again, I think that we are going to, the rules of this will dictate an establishment name and somebody who already has a significant leg up from being the likely person to step into the role. So can it be done? Yes. How much of that, though, will be decided by, I would say, grassroots members, but everybody can be a member. I say grassroots Liberal supporters, and how much of that is going to be artificially guardrailed by the result of these rules, I think is really up for debate, and that's where the high entrance fee factors into that as well. So they can, but I'm not sure it's in the best interest of the party long term.
All right, well, we'll talk a little bit more about how the Liberals will pick their next leader when we come back, though, on our Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Here with Kate Harrison from Suma Strategies and Cam Holmstrom from Neepaway Strategies. There is a caucus meeting for Liberals today in Ottawa. The party is, I think, under some pressure to change the rules about who can vote in a leadership race. What do you think they're talking about up there, Cam?
Talking about the obvious, that because they figured away the last year and haven't done what they should have done, which was update their leadership contest rules and who can be a supporter, quote unquote, to avoid foreign interference. And geez, look at what happened. We didn't do our homework, and now we're being called out on it. Like seriously, this has been this government's problem from day one. For a government that ran on quote unquote deliverology, they suck at delivering. They suck at the day to day. And this is exactly it. Like, you know what? We were talking earlier about the entry fee. Guess what? I don't care if it's $500,000, $50,000, or $5. It doesn't matter if the Chinese government can get half a million people to sign up for free and pick the person anyway. What does it matter at that point? How much it costs to get in if the other guy is getting decided for free?
What do you think they're discussing when it comes to the rules about who can vote in a leadership race for the Liberals, Kate?
Yeah, this is a glaring vulnerability. It's been pointed out by, pretty much every media outlet in Canada. It's a little bit ironic to me, of course, that the same people who were highly critical of Pierre Poilievre not receiving that confidential briefing around election interference that he couldn't do much with once he received it are the same people who think it's completely fine to have 14-year-olds, non-citizens vote in the leadership election process. So this is something that they need to fix. It's also something that has played out as an issue in candidate nominations, like all of the controversy surrounding Han Dong, for example. Like this has been abused in the past. So obviously it is something that must be addressed now. I would not say at this point that
one of their own MPs, who is now the public safety minister, David McGuinty, has said nomination races and leadership races are particularly vulnerable to foreign interference. Let's hope he can maybe give a lecture there.
And left unaddressed, it will, and this is not a problem that the Liberal Party needs to have, but left unaddressed, it leaves them open to the criticism that it's not a legitimate race. And the person coming in is not a legitimate prime minister. And I'm not saying that today, but if they don't fix this problem, they're going to leave themselves open to that criticism.
It will taint the outcome. Okay, thank you. Very interesting. My gosh, what a start to the year in Canadian politics. What a week it's been.
Hard entry to 2025.
And it's only Wednesday. Okay, thank you. Great to hear from both of you.
Take care.
Yeah, all the best. Cam Holmstrom, principal at Nipaway Strategies, and Kate Harrison is vice chair at Summa Strategies. We are going to talk about Trump and Canada coming up during our Talkback. But as well, if you want to listen to a great podcast, listen to the Big Story podcast that was posted today, hosted by my colleague here, David Smith, and his special guest, an extended conversation on everything that's happening with Trump and tariffs and Trudeau and Canada. Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Again, you can hear that on the Big Story podcast. Talkback is just ahead, coming up right after the news here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It is 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day, and we have a big issue to talk about today. Today's topic is Trump and Canada. Trump and Canada. What do you think Donald Trump wants? What is Donald Trump up to? What is Donald Trump getting at with all this talk about Canada? What do you think is going on here? 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. I mean, this has been going on for weeks now, but now it seems to have taken a more serious turn. All of this talk about Canada becoming the 51st state. What do you think Donald Trump is up to, everyone? I don't claim to have any special insight into the inner workings of the brain of Donald Trump. I am really hoping that you'll give us a call, share your thoughts on what you think the end game is here for Trump and his fascination with Canada or his grudge against Canada. Think about everything that's happened recently. A few weeks ago, he threatened Canada and Mexico with an across-the-board 25% tariff. Both countries didn't do things that he views as big problems. Moves to address big problems: border security, illegal immigration, the flow of illegal drugs. We had the trip by Prime Minister Trudeau and his entourage down to Florida, dinner with Donald Trump. And at first it sounded as though things went okay. And then there were these announcements from the Trudeau people about border security, this $1 billion plan to beef up the border. And the government of Alberta made its own announcement about border security. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford said he supported more measures on the border, supported more spending on national defense, but that if tariffs came in, he would stop exporting electricity to the United States. If tariffs came into effect, no kind of consensus on that with other premiers, like the premier of Saskatchewan or Quebec or Alberta. That was kind of an Ontario go it alone kind of thing. And we've seen Danielle Smith, the Alberta premier, on cable news in the United States, mostly Fox News. Doug Ford has been on Fox News. He's been on CNN, pitching Canada, making the Canadian case. And yet Trump continues to talk about how Canada should be the 51st state. The prime minister could be the governor. Maybe Wayne Gretzky could be the governor. And at first, a lot of people were just kind of writing that off or laughing it off as some kind of joke. Oh, that's just Donald Trump trolling Canada, or that's just Donald Trump trolling Trudeau because he doesn't like Justin Trudeau. But then yesterday came along, and Donald Trump said some pretty remarkable things yesterday. Wouldn't rule out using military force to take over Greenland, which is a territory of Denmark. Denmark's a NATO ally. Wouldn't rule out using military force to take back control of the Panama Canal. So then he was asked, well, what about Canada? What about Canada? Would you use military force to take over Canada, to make Canada the 51st state? And he said no, but he would use economic force. Economic force. Let's listen to what he said.
You're serious about making Canada 51st state of the United States. The leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstance will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir, real fast, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit.
So is he still joking when he says these things? All these ways we are ripping off the United States or taking advantage of the United States, or the United States is subsidizing us. He says, well, that would be fine if we were a state. We should be a state. But we're done being nice neighbors to Canada. You still think he's joking? You still think he's just trolling Canada? What do you think is going on here? Opinions seem to range from, and I'd love to know yours, 1-833-668-2577. Opinions seem to range from, well, he's just trolling us. That's all this is. And it's nothing to get excited about. It's nothing to lose sleep over. That's one opinion that's out there. Another opinion is it's all just a negotiation tactic. He's trying to rattle us. He's trying to rattle Canada. He's trying to, soften up Canada. This is all part of the art of the deal. This is about getting concessions from Canada on trade. It's a negotiation tactic. And we're not about to become the 51st state. Don't worry about it. That's another opinion that is out there. And yet another one is that he's serious. Donald Trump is serious. And Donald Trump has his eyes on Canada, and he really does want Canada to become part of the United States. And in fact, he's going to take Canada and claim Canada for the United States, whether we like it or not. And we're in the final innings of Canada as a sovereign country because we can't win an economic war with the United States, and we certainly wouldn't survive any kind of military confrontation with the United States. And welcome to the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny. People on Fox News are talking about this, rather confused and stupid and really not understanding why we wouldn't want to be American. I see Ben Shapiro posting about this on social media, one of the best-known conservative commentators in the United States. Last night, Donald Trump posted on social media 2 images of the United States, and Canada's nowhere to be seen. The United States has totally taken over Canada. We have seen from some of the polling that only a small percentage of Canadians, maybe 1 in 10 or so, a little higher for conservatives, higher still for supporters of the People's Party, actually like the idea of becoming the 51st state of the United States. I would love to get your take on all of this. Let's kick this around for a couple of hours. What do you think is going on here? What's this fixation that Donald Trump has with Canada? You still think he's just joking? It's a negotiating tactic? Do you think he's serious? And he wants Canada, planning to take over Canada. Make Canada part of the United States. Our phone lines are open right now. The number to call again, 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that to our call screener. Just tell the call screener, I'm a first-time caller. I want to talk to Rob. I want to have my opinion. We will make your call a priority. So call us now. Share your opinion. It's Talkback midweek edition here, 1-833-668-2577. Your calls are next on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The topic today, Trump and Canada. Why is Donald Trump fixated on Canada? Still talking about Canada and the 51st state. Do you think he's still joking? Is it a negotiating tactic? Or do you think he's serious and he wants the United States to take over Canada? 1-833-668-2577. Tom in Cambridge up first today. Hi, Tom. What do you think is happening?
Rob? No, at one point in time, Canada's dollar was stronger than the American dollar. At one point in time, Canada had the most superior aircraft until someone decided to cancel that program. I don't really think he's joking at all. Everybody's referencing Neville Chamberlain's comment at one point in time. Like, if he doesn't want our lumber, doesn't want our timber, doesn't want our electricity, well, it's fine. But if it comes a point in time and day you want it, you have to pay double or triple for that now. We shouldn't be paying more for our own natural resources, but selling it less to the Americans and then paying for it double on the way back. You know, as a convicted felon, I don't know how he's going to get across the border into Canada because we got to protect our borders. So we can't let convicted felons cross the border.
All kind of beside the point. What do you think is going on with this constant talk about Canada and the 51st state and the leader can become a governor and all of this stuff? Why do you think he's doing this?
Well, it's time to quit playing the political game with him. Like, if you want to play, he has no respect for being politically correct at all in that. He doesn't respect anything but his own self. Quit feeding his ego. And if we're going to stand up to him, stand up to him. Like, we shouldn't be concerned should be concerned to some extent. But if this is all a negotiation tactic, we should be operating from the position of strength. Economically, can we fight for the U.S.? Possibly not. But we shouldn't actually put all our eggs in one basket either. So if you want to follow down this rabbit hole with him and let him keep shaking and rattling our trees, maybe we should just chop down the tree.
Okay, Tom, thank you for your opinion. 1-833-668-2577. Joel, you're on the line. Joel, what do you think is going on here with Trump and Canada? What's happening here, in your opinion?
Hi, I'm a first-time caller.
Appreciate that.
Kind of nervous to be on the radio, but honestly,
yeah,
I don't think he's joking. I don't think he ever jokes about anything that he says.
Okay.
And whether he's messing with us or not, we got to look at the fact that we don't spend anything on our military. We can't beat them economically, and we're hugely dependent on them. And maybe joining forces with them wouldn't leave us a sitting duck for the rest of the world to pick on.
Okay, so when you mean joining forces with them, what do you mean?
I don't know. I guess it would be a talk that would have to be had because we've got our health care paid for up here. Nobody's going to like that disappearing, but there could be some benefits to joining the states or being more allied with them.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm open-minded about it personally because the last few years in Canada, I don't even want to name names, but economically, we're destroyed. Military, we're nothing. Like,
yes,
peace and love and all that only goes so far. And I mean,
but are the solutions to those Canadian problems, the Canadian economy, the Canadian military, are the solutions to those problems becoming American? Or do those solutions lie in our own political leaders and getting a better government in Canada?
A better government in Canada would help. A more structured government, one that doesn't lean whichever way it has to win, right? Like, the way I see it, Trudeau imported all of his votes. That doesn't tell me power. You know, like, the last few years here have made me want to move to the States. With the gun control and all the decisions that are being made here, like, it's not the Canada that I grew up in. I'm 48 years old, and I love Canada, but I don't like the way it's going right now.
You don't like the direction that it's going in, and because of that, you are open-minded to the idea of becoming the 51st state.
Yeah, or being more of an ally, like some sort of agreement with them. Like, I'm not a politician, but I'm willing to listen to people's ideas on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And that's what we're trying to do today as well, Joel. I hope you'll call back again. You did just great. For a first-time caller, thank you so much. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Trump, Canada, 51st state. It never ends. If anything, it's heating up, becoming more serious. What do you think is going on here? What's the end game for Trump? 1-833-668-2577. A couple of lines available there. Love to hear from you today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Donald Trump says Canada should be a state, the 51st state. Do you think he's still joking? Do you think it's a negotiating tactic? Do you think he's serious? That he wants to take over Canada, maybe even plotting to take over Canada. 1-833-668-2577. What do you think is happening? Rob in Halifax. Hi, Rob. You're on the air.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. Rob, go ahead.
I'm a first-time caller, and I think Trump's
appreciate that, Rob.
I think Trump's a bully, and I think that that country is going to have a civil war itself, what's voting Trump in. Now, here's the thing. If anybody didn't know, you got to watch it on YouTube. It's called Forsaken Soldiers, how Trudeau, he took away our military. We have no military force in this country, so anybody could take over our country. Trump, China, Russia, it doesn't matter. Anybody could come in our harbor and take us over. Now, that's an important key. Now, I think Trump should wait until we get a new government in power to make his decisions, because our new government on the Conservatives are going to be a lot more better for us in Canada than Trudeau and the Liberal government ever
this is a good time then. Just hold on, Rob, to play the clip, David, because he's asked yesterday at Mar-a-Lago by one of the news reporters, even the Conservative leader, meaning Pierre Poilievre, is against Canada becoming the 51st state, and Trump brushes it off. I don't care what that guy thinks. Play that, David, just that little
serious about making Canada 51st state of the United States. The leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstance will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir Lopez, you said you were considering.
Yeah, I don't care what he says. I don't care what
Trump says, because I think he's a bully, and I know as true Canadians, we will fight. We will never become the United States, ever. If you look at our history and you watch that clip, Forsaken Soldiers, Canada has a history of being fighters, and we will never become that state, ever. And I know I will join the military myself, and I will fight against this. This will never happen. I'll tell you right now, Trump shouldn't. He's a criminal, and he shouldn't even be allowed in power. So that speaks for itself that country is going to have its own civil war eventually. So
thank you, Rob. Going to move along here. Fit in one more before the news. Len in Calgary. Len, you're on the air. What's your opinion here? What's happening here with Trump in Canada?
Hey, I agree with your last caller. I would fight to my death to become an American. We are Canadian. I'm proud to be Canadian. Yes, they're our ally, but Donald Trump is a loose cannon.
Okay. What do you think his end game is here? Why does he keep mentioning this? 51st state, governor of the 51st state, all of this stuff.
I think he's a bully. So he says, if you don't do this, then I'm going to get this. And I think ultimately what he wants, Dave, he wants our resources, our water, our oil, our gas. I mean, he's looking to get that, right? And so he's just trying to bully us into taking all those things. And, but yeah, I like the last caller said, I would personally join the military at 62 if I had to keep our country as it is. We're Canadians for a reason, and I can wear my flag on my
So
backpack.
let me ask you this, because our time is tight. You bring up, he wants our oil, he wants our gas, he wants our whatever, water, whatever the case might be. How far do you think he would go to do that?
Well, ultimately, we wouldn't have much choice if a push came to shove, but I would hope the rest of the world would stand up to him and say, hey, enough is enough, right? But yeah, he ultimately could do that, and I've talked about that. But I think, as your last caller said, we as Canadians would have to get together and say, hey, enough is enough.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting
Thank you,
calls
Dave.
so far on Talkback. Great to hear from you today. I'm Rob Snow here with David Smith. It's the Wednesday edition of Talkback. Trump, Trudeau, tariffs, Canada, 51st state. All of this stuff is in the mix for us today. We'll be back right after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Trump, Canada. Why is Donald Trump fixated on Canada, talking about the 51st state? Still, do you still think he's just joking? Do you think it's a negotiating tactic? Do you think he's serious? He really wants to take over Canada. 1-833-668-2577 to Neil in Sylvan Lake. Good to hear from you, Neil. You're on the air. What's your opinion?
Well, I think people have to wake up in Canada where we're at. And I think that would be the best thing that could ever happen, is that Canada, if the Americans got together. We have so many global, it's just, everybody's coming after us. And we're sitting there like limp ducks. We got nothing. What are we going to do, throw snowballs at them?
Well, there probably have to be a government procurement program for the snowballs. Of course, that might take a year or so. It probably run over budget as well, the way this country operates sometimes, Neil. Yeah, but when you say get together, what do you mean? It's time to get together and wake up. What do you mean?
North America, period, has to get together. There are so many global threats out there, and people better start realizing what it is. The Chinese, the Russians. We have to get together and protect this continent.
Okay. Well, what if that means the United States, the word that was used yesterday on Fox News was absorbs Canada? What if it came to that? What would you think of that, sir?
I'd be fine with it.
You'd be fine with it?
Absolutely
Really?
Fine with it.
And there's no country called Canada anymore?
It's our best bet. No, are you kidding me? I used to be a proud Canadian.
Right.
I am not anymore. I'm embarrassed because of how badly we're run. We're run by idiots in the government.
Right. Okay, but does that mean you give up on the country? You give up on Canada, or you try to fix the problems in Canada? Get a better government in Canada.
I would join the states and be proud to be whatever. We're still going to be Canada. It's going to be a state. Big deal.
Okay. All right. I'll see how many people agree with that opinion. I think that's the minority opinion, Neil, but I thank you for sharing it. Let's go to Quinn, calling from Halifax. Quinn, you're on the air. What's your opinion here? What do you think is going on? Hi, Quinn. Are you there?
Sorry, are you able to hear me?
I hear you now. Yes, go ahead with your opinion,
fantastic. Please. Sorry, first-time caller, so my phone might just be a little wonky.
That's
I think
okay.
It's a really, I think we really need to start taking Trump seriously when he normalizes absurdity in this way, and especially for Canada becoming a 51st state. We're in a huge crisis right now where there's a really big divide in our country, so it's really interesting how a lot of people seem interested in that possibility. My hope, however, is that through that divide, it kind of heals by what Trump is doing and reunites that Canadian patriotism that all of us really do have. I love our country. I'm not going to be having an American president telling me what to do on my land and our land. That's a completely ridiculous notion.
Okay. Do you think he's serious when he talks about this, that Canada should be a state? Do you think he's
100%.
considering it? You do. You view it as a real threat. It's not a joke. It's a threat. Is that what you think?
It has not been a joke. We've taken it as a joke because Trump's specialty is his ability to normalize that absurdity. I mean, another example is him saying that he'll rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. We've been able to laugh about that, but it's those notions that really show his interest in expanding his nation and becoming more powerful, and that doesn't make anything good for the rest of us here. It just makes it better for him and his friends.
Okay, thank you for calling.
Thanks for having
Quinn, staying in Halifax. Dave in Halifax, you're on the air, Dave. What's your opinion? What do you think is happening here, Trump in Canada?
I think we all got to calm down. I think it's silly.
Calm down?
I think for him, the rough shot over top of Canada, he's got bigger fish to fry, and he has limited time, midterms in 2 years, razor thin in both the House and the Senate, kind of controls the Supreme Court to a certain degree as well. So he's got a mate in the shade for a little bit. But honestly, no, he's got bigger things. He does the weave. You know, he talks big things and a lot of things. But I will say one thing. He said by his inauguration, and if this holds true, then we may want to consider, maybe he is serious about this a little bit. But there's so much. We're still part of the Commonwealth. And folks, we've had a gun to our head through Quebec anyways. They get what they want. We've put so much money into Quebec, made them a distinct society and all that stuff. You know that. We've gone down FLQ. We've been at the mercy of Quebec, so we know what it's like to be threatened to separate. And some people said, yeah, hey, you know what, you go. But it will rip our country apart probably. But think of it too, Rob. We're only 40 million people. That's basically the size of California, one state. So we're small. And militarily wise, we've lagged. But like I said, I think that he's got bigger fish to fry. He has limited time, limited resources. He loses the House and the Senate, and, he's at the mercy of, and that's democracy. So I think he talks big, he's showy and what have you, and he's, we see that. He's a showman. And he's gotten all the corporate leaders together at Mar-a-Lago, hasn't he? He's got, Zuckerberg was down there, Apple and other big corporations have been basically bowing into him. And Mr. Wonderful was down there himself, and he spoke very highly of, I think we can become a better union trade-wise. And if you think of it, we got Mexico, we got Canada, United States, and look where we are globally. And would it be the end of the world if we sort of curbed things a little bit, became a little closer to the United States? I don't think that would be a problem whatsoever. I think there's going to be some...
But you think we need to calm down? Calm down.
I'm fine. I'm fine. It's all good. I think people have to calm down. I think this is just, don't worry. But like I said, if he deals with Hamas, like he said, and if they don't come through with releasing the hostages on his inauguration date of the 20th, and he says all hell's going to break loose, then maybe he is serious about some of these things. If you don't mind me saying so. We shall
All right, thank you. I don't mind you saying so at all. Thank you for sharing your opinion. We'll have to wrap things up there, though, Dave. Thanks for calling from Halifax today. More of your calls just ahead. When you hear someone hang up, that means there's a free line. It's very busy on the phone lines today, so make that your cue to call. 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're talking about Trump and Canada and becoming the 51st state. What do you think Trump is up to? What prompted this discussion today? Comments made by Trump yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, doing a news conference, talking about his goals for his second term. He was asked if he would use military force to take over Canada. He said he wouldn't, but he would use economic force to make Canada the 51st state. He then went on to talk about how he explained his many concerns to Mr. Trudeau during Mr. Trudeau's visit to Florida a few weeks ago. And he called, of course, Mr. Trudeau, Governor Trudeau. But let's listen to a little bit more of Donald Trump yesterday at Mar-a-Lago.
But why are we supporting a country, 200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. You know, they send us hundreds of thousands of cars. They make a lot of money with that. They send us a lot of other things that we don't need. We don't need their cars, and we don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. We got a lot of everything. And we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit, and we're doing it because we like our neighbors, and we've been good neighbors, but we can't do it forever, and it's a tremendous amount of money.
Donald Trump yesterday in Florida. What do you think is going on here? Janet in Halifax. Janet, you're on the air. What's your opinion here?
Hi, Rob. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Go ahead.
Well, we all know Donald Trump, and he loves the limelight. He loves to be on everybody's minds. He lives for it. That's about the most of the highest potential that man has, to be in the limelight.
Okay.
This country is a beautiful country, and we don't need Donald Trump running us. I want to be able to get an abortion if I want it. I want my grandkids to get an abortion if they need it and want it. I don't want to be controlled. When women have been controlled our whole lives, and we get 10 points ahead and we go 10 points backwards for people like Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is an ass, excuse me, but that's what he is. And we've got NATO behind us, so I'm not concerned about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is pretending to be Putin, and that's exactly what he is, a dictator.
Okay. So do you think he's, if I may, do you think he's serious?
Donald Trump doesn't know what serious is.
Okay.
He has no clue what serious is. His mouth is running like a Drake's ass constantly, and he makes no sense about anything he says, and he never sticks to anything he says. He's a criminal. He is a bad person, and the American people voted that man in. So you ask me, why would I want to be an American?
Well, clearly you don't. I appreciate that sentiment.
No, I would not ever want to be an American, because if that's what they're going to vote to run their country and keep them safe, they've made the biggest mistakes of their lives. God help these next 4 years.
All right, Janet. Thank you. Deepak up next in Calgary. You're on the air, Deepak. Go ahead. What do you think Donald Trump's doing here? What's his end game here? Hi.
I think the issue is kind of surrounding around a personality. The two countries are completely different. They have their own fabric, and Donald Trump's approach. He tries to disrupt the fabric first of all, and then tries to build a new one, and then he disrupts his own fabric, like what he's doing on the trade part. So I think a pragmatic solution would be his current burning point is the trade deficit. So maybe trying to work around the currency for the trade, that we have the same currency, would eliminate a part of the deficit right away. For example, like Canadian dollar to the US dollar, if that's one, then that would, of course, eliminate some of the deficit numbers. But also, at the same time, going forward, if the trades happen in the US currency, that's all what he would need. And then it would be just like a trade between two states, one state giving power to other state, and, they bill them, and in the US currencies, there is no, whatever is the flow that happens there. So I think a pragmatic approach would be to sit down and look at the currency and see if that can help alleviate what his concerns are. The reason I say this, because this problem may not be restricted to Trump. You would see how Republicans are now, right? They are taking the far-right stand. So who knows, the next leader who comes in may be good, may be even far-right than Trump, and he may further take it to the extreme. So I think rising above the individual personalities, addressing the problem that he has, understanding the concern, but at the same time protecting Canada's interest and our fabric, which is a great country that we are in. I think that possibly could be a solution, but of course someone needs to be equally strong-handed to deal with Trump and his deputy Musk to bring them to the table and arrive at a practical solution. That's
all right, Deepak. Thank you.
No, merging is not a solution.
All right, thank you so much, Deepak, for your call. More of your calls ahead as we continue our discussion about Trump and Canada. It's Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Why is Donald Trump still so fixated on Canada? 1-833-668-2577. Sandy up next in Calgary. You're on the air. What do you think is happening here, Sandy?
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I wish you would play that clip. I don't know how to explain it, but it's where Trump thinks that the leader of China is doing something right because he controls that large of number of people. And I think Canada's just a stepping stone for him. I think he wants the world. I know that sounds crazy maybe, but that's what I think. And I don't think that his term, once he's back in, is going to end when it's supposed to. He probably feels that was a mistake his first time around.
Okay.
Not making some rules there. Yeah.
So, Sandy, if I could just maybe dig a little deeper into this here. Do you think he has, say, imperialist ambitions then?
Yes.
To expand the borders of the United States? What would be known as manifest destiny?
I kind of feel, my personal feeling is that, he wants to be dictator of sort of what's left of the rest of the world that he can be dictator of. And then, he wants to supersede the dictators of Russia and China. I think he wants to be top dog and nothing less.
Okay, very interesting. That maybe he looks and he sees, and I'm not saying this is what's going on, but it's certainly an opinion that's out there. He looks at Putin invading Ukraine, for example. Yeah. He looks at Xi and China and Taiwan, for example, this idea that China would invade Taiwan. And maybe he's thinking, well, if they're doing that, I'll take Canada.
And that's just a start, like not just Canada. I mean, look at what else he's looking at, and he's not even in office.
Right. You mean Greenland, the Panama Canal, this kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting, Sandy. Thank you. Bill, up next. Kitchener, Ontario. Bill, you're on the air. Hi there.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm quite a young person. I'm 23 years old. And so thinking about how Canada has benefited me personally really gives me like a lot of ick when I hear Donald Trump say these types of things. Like, annexing Canada to become the 51st state, I think at face value is quite a silly statement to make. And I'm quite surprised by, some of the reaction of the callers before me, seeming to support these ideas. But I'm more reassured by the ideas that align with my own, that, this is not a good idea. Donald Trump is just playing into his hunger for attention, trying to rally support amongst his own sort of base by creating a lot of controversy. Okay. And I think Canadians would be doing themselves even more harm to let ourselves become more fractured over this type of dissent.
Wow, really interesting. Thank you so much. Great to hear from you. Wonderful call from 23-year-old there in Kitchener. Bill, 23, and listening to talk radio and into the current events of the day gives me hope for the world. Thank you. That's hour number one. It flew by, didn't it? A whole hour just ahead, though. More of your calls and a lot more to say about Trump, Canada, the 51st state. What is going on in this world? This is Talkback. The latest breaking news next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Our topic today, Trump and Canada. Why is Donald Trump still talking about Canada becoming the 51st state? Do you think he's just joking? Is it a negotiating tactic? Do you think he's serious and wants to take over Canada? Again, the scene is Florida state yesterday, Mar-a-Lago, and he's asked if he would use military force to take over Canada. He said no. He would use economic force to make Canada the 51st state. Roll tape, David.
You're serious about making Canada the 51st state of the United States. The leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstances will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir, real fast, you said you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force. Because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. They make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit.
Donald Trump yesterday. What's going on? What do you think he's talking about? What's his end game? Gerald Lethbridge, you're on the air. Gerald, what do you think about this, Gerald?
Well, my personal feeling is that we've already given up Canada 10 years ago when Trudeau committed us to the first UN country, that we would be the first UN country. So we've
post-national.
Maybe Donald Trump just doesn't want the ghettos beside his country.
Okay, but do you think he's serious about wanting to take over Canada?
I don't think take over as in, blow through the borders or anything, but economically to be absorbed a bit. I mean, we all, and especially you guys in the East, you guys are constantly going to the States. You guys want the dollar at equal par. You guys support the American economy more than anybody. So,
well, I would say in Alberta, with all due respect, Gerald, with all due respect, you're in Alberta, the Alberta economy. I mean, if energy is not exported to the United States, there's not. I mean, think of how painful that would be for the Alberta economy.
Rob, whose fault is that it's not getting? We don't have to the coast.
Right. Well,
right.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you're blaming that on Mr. Trudeau. Fair enough. Okay. There is a Trans Mountain pipeline right now. There's a Trans Mountain pipeline right now. There should have been an Energy East pipeline, if you ask me. We should have had an Energy East pipeline.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
But the common people are involved mostly, and you can't blame them, but mostly for what's in their own backyard. That's why Albertans are very passionate about oil and gas. And oil and gas is a worldwide commodity, where you guys, as long as the Americans are buying your cars, you're good with that, right? And so that's a big difference. A commodity market comparable to a manufacturing market, I mean, this is a conversation.
Again, Mr. Trump said yesterday, we don't need anything that they send from Canada. Anything.
Yeah, I heard too. And yeah, that was, again, if we're going to hold our politicians verbatim on everything they say, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. Right?
Okay.
So
what do you think what do you think his end game is then? Waking us up, rattling us, telling us to get our act together kind of thing?
Well, let's face it, say the borders, for instance. If we were stronger borders, maybe we wouldn't have the gun problems. Maybe if Mexico had stronger borders, their cartel wouldn't have the gun problems. Because America is number one in building these stupid guns.
All right, Gerald, thank you. I'm going to move along to Mike from Lethbridge to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Mike, you're on the air. Mike, what's going on here? What's Donald Trump up to here?
Well, Donald's just being Donald. But,
okay.
You know what? I can't help, Rob. I know this is against the grain, but I can't help thinking that, my God, we would benefit an awful lot. I don't want to give up Canada as a country, but I can't help but think of the struggle that people are going through with the cost of living and everything. Think about if we switched to gallons of gas for the price they're paying down there. You know, the monopolies that have controlled us here in Canada for years, charging us absorbent amounts of money for, cable and cell phones, and I'm just going to shut this off, buddy, so I can hear you. There's so many benefits with the opportunities that the U.S. would provide us in, competition and stuff in so many different areas that that's a big plus looking at that. My big concern would be never wanting to give up our health care programs. I've heard some terrible horror stories, even from young people, owing $20,000 at the age of 19 or 20 because they broke a leg or an arm. So it's something that would really have to be negotiated well, so that we don't lose. But I think some of the gains would be, and I mean, as far as leaders, come on. Look at what's going on right now in I won't use any profanity, but the guy that's been running our show here for the last 10 years, I'm not too concerned about who's running the show because they're pretty well all corrupt. But
okay. All right, Mike, I got you. Okay. All right. Room for improvement. Don't be scared off by the idea, I guess. We'll move along here. In fact, we will stop right here and be back and take more of your calls. It's hour number 2 of Talkback, talking Trump again. Trump in Canada, Trump in the 51st state. Your thoughts, please. Let's discuss here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
When Donald Trump talks about Canada becoming the 51st state, is he still joking? Is he using it as a negotiating tactic? Do you think he's serious and wants to take over Canada? He shared 2 images yesterday on social media. Just said the United States of America, and it includes all of Canada. What's going on there? Just a joke? 1-833-668-2577. Afif in Waterloo, you're up next, Afif. What's your opinion? What do you think is happening here?
Hey, Rob. So personally, I don't want to become, like a 51st state for Canada, for U.S. But my uncle had a joke, and he said, if we do become the 51st state, then at least we get the American citizenship, if you know what I mean.
Right. Okay.
But personally, I would hate it because I'm living under Trump and then going through his hell. There's no way. I would rather just like the other one of the other calls said, like, I'd rather fight and against Trump. I'd join the army to fight him.
You join the army to fight it. Why do you think he's saying these things?
He's like everybody's saying, like, he's trying to get our resources because that's why he's trying to put tariffs on us, because he's trying to make sure that we give him what he wants, and we shouldn't give in to his power. He's just a power person. Last time he was here for 4 years, he did a lot of stuff, and he was just just saying it, but he didn't do anything really.
Okay, when he says that he wants Canada to become the 51st state, do you think he's serious?
No, I seriously doubt.
You don't think he's serious? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for weighing in there. Joe is in Kitchener. Now, Joe, if I recall, you weren't a big Trump fan anyway, to begin with.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
Let me say this to you. The last guy that tried to take over other countries, mostly all of Europe, and then he also eventually would have had intentions on ruling the whole world, was Adolf Hitler. And let's not forget what happened to that moron, okay? That's what Trump kind of reminds me of right now. I think we need to stop giving him this platform. Let him keep spewing whatever nonsense he wants, Rob, and just don't get too serious about it. You know what? And the other thing is this, with the economy. Our economies are so well intertwined with the United States now. For instance, the automotive sector, which is a major commodity that we ship over to them and they ship stuff over to us. Everything's working just wonderful. I'm still holding out hope that there's going to be some intelligent economists in the United States, like we have in Canada, that are going to kind of, through his other guys that run those departments that deal with industry and that kind of stuff, that they're going to say, Donald, this is nonsense what you're spewing here. Just leave well enough alone. Now, the 25% surcharge that he wants to put on all goods coming in from Canada, that's worrisome. And again, I'm hoping that some kind of individual in his cabinet or whatever, economists, are just going to make him realize how stupid he's really, saying all this kind of stuff. So I'm not too concerned about it, to be honest with you, and neither should everybody else in Canada. This is our country, the last time I checked, and this moron, just let him keep spewing this nonsense, Rob, and let's not take him so serious anymore. And that's all I have.
All right, Joe. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Herman up next in Calgary. You're on the air, Herman. What do you think is going on here?
Well, Rob, I got to tell you, I think that this is just posturing for future negotiations, and it'll blow over, on the 20th, and I think Mr. Trump will have his hands full with a bunch of other issues. But I think there's some real important context that has been lost. In the matter of Panama and the like, you have the Panama Canal, which was built by the United States of America, now basically under Chinese control. And there's a substantial differential between the rates charged American flag ships and everybody else around the world. I think he's right to actually say, okay, we got to have some fairness, and if not, we are going to use the treaty and actually go back in and take it over, just like the treaty allows for us to do so. The second one is Greenland. Well, guess what? Greenland doesn't have any standing army. It's for effectively a protectorate of Denmark. Denmark only pays 1.49% of its gross domestic product on defense and the like. So that is a huge gap, shall we say, in continental security when you start considering the role the Arctic is going to play in the future. So then we come to little old Canada. I can't say that Mr. Trudeau is exclusively responsible for this. Some of the issues have been endemic to the country for the better part of 50 years. But what are we going to do if we decide that we have to actually play tough? Our military can't really walk and chew gum at the same time, unfortunately. economically, we're getting our resources drained entirely through the United States because of the lack of foresight to build, as you indicated, Energy East and the Northern Gateway pipeline as well is in there, as well as Trans Mountain. We didn't do anything with Mr. Biden killed the Keystone XL. There was nary a whimper from Mr. Trudeau and his gang. So as a result, we don't have the economic wherewithal to fight. We've sold out our country already. It's going to take some very cagey and crafty leadership on the part of Canada to get us forward and out of this and the like. And let me tell you, we should be at an election today, sir. We should not be sitting here wasting time with the Liberals rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah, I have some comments on that I'll make if I could get a word in edgewise here before the top of the hour here in hour number 2. Very thoughtful, Herman. Thank you for your call. Appreciate that insight. It's Talkback. Plenty more time to take your calls. Rather hear from you than me. Your time, 1-833-668-2577. Trump and Canada, the topic of the day on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, jam-packed phone lines today on Talkback. The topic is Trump and Canada and the 51st state, and remarks yesterday by the president-elect of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Emerson in Calgary's up next. Hi, Emerson.
Happy New Year, Rob. Thank you again for taking my call. Rob, I think I'll just say this. I think this just comes down to him having a little bit of fun before he's sworn in. Everybody's falling hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I think it's payback against Trudeau for the way he was treated when he was here on the G7 committee there, and he said he was a backstabber. He knows darn well it would take an act of Christ to revise the Constitution to take over this country. He knows he's getting all the media attention that he could possibly want by saying, I'm going to take Canada, this and that, and the world is going to, oh my God, Trump's going to go after Canada. What is he going to do to us? Trust me, when he's sworn in on the 20th of this month, he's going to have his hands full. And I mean his hands full with other matters that he's promised his own people, let alone trying to get Canada. I think Mr. Trudeau has really made it worse, giving him all this attention by saying not a snowball's hell and crap and this and that. That's
okay.
That's stupid talk. I mean, let's get to the basics here. Trudeau put this country in a bad spot because now we got to go into an election. The election should be now, not after Parliament is brought back in March. So as much as Trump is having fun with the media and everybody else, it's not going anywhere. It's just his way of saying, look at me. You guys all thought I wouldn't be here. Look at me. Look at me. That's what he does. He's a power trip man, and that's what he does. I got to give him a lot of credit. Most people would have had a heart attack in his position with all those charges facing him, but not him. He got stronger. The more charges, the stronger he got. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to say, Rob, he's not going to touch Canada. It's just an attention grab. That's all it is. And everybody should just get back to work. Thank you, Rob.
Get back to work. Okay. Thank you, Emerson. Thank you. James in Airdrie. James. Hi there, James.
Rob, how are you?
I'm good, James. What do you think Trump is up to here?
Rob, what is your opinion on this?
What is my opinion on this?
Yes.
Well, my opinion doesn't really matter. It's Talkback, sir. What's your opinion?
Okay. I just wanted to know what would be your opinion. Anyways, do you think if Canada was a strongly economically, military, would this happen? I don't think it would happen.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
If Canada would have
that he smells weakness, so he's seizing on our weakness. Is that what you think?
Of course. Well,
okay.
Canada is you think if Canada would had a source of revenue only from broccoli, do you think the Americans would be interested? No.
Right.
They're interested in natural resources. This country is full of natural resources. It's unfortunate that we have incompetent politicians, and not only politicians, some businessmen as well, because they take their wealth and investments into other countries rather than it stays here. And that causes weaknesses, right?
Right. Okay. All right, you can hang on the line. I'll bring you back if you want to come back on, or we can wrap things up here, but we have to stop because the latest breaking news is coming up next on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we've been talking about Trump, Canada, the comments he made about the 51st state yesterday when he was doing this hour and 40-minute news conference at Mar-a-Lago. Can you imagine? Why is Donald Trump still so obsessed with Canada? Why does he keep talking about the 51st state? I will say James and Eric kind of caught me off guard. He said, well, what's your opinion? Because I'm so interested in hearing your opinions, and that's why we do Talkback. My opinion would be, I'm not sure. Could he just be joking? Likely. Could it be a negotiating tactic? Maybe more likely. Could there be imperialist ambitions here? Maybe less likely, but can you really roll it out? I would say one of the sad things about all of it is there's no leadership in Ottawa right now. And Parliament is prorogued. The Governor General proroguing Parliament until March 24th at the request of Prime Minister Trudeau on Monday as he announces his long goodbye. And let's face it, Donald Trump doesn't like Justin Trudeau anyway. Maybe explain some of this. Even yesterday, calling him the governor. And then on X or Twitter, when Trudeau posted, there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would ever become the 51st state, Elon Musk, close friend, obviously, of Donald Trump, posted at Trudeau and said, quote, "Girl, you're not the governor of Canada anymore, so it doesn't matter what you say." So that's what the Trump crowd thinks of the current crop of liberals in Ottawa. And when you listen to Trump yesterday, and we have the clip, one of the reporters said, well, the conservative leader also says Canada would never become the 51st state. And Trump's response was, I don't care what he thinks. David, let's listen to that little bit again.
You're serious about making Canada 51st state of the United States. The leader of the Conservative Party in Canada said, under no circumstance will it ever be the 51st state.
Maybe he won't win, but maybe he will. I don't care.
You had suggested.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
But Sir Lopez,
I don't care what he says. I don't care what he says. And he's talking about Polyev. But I mean, this is the state of affairs in this country while that's happening in Florida. Trudeau's supposed to be on his way out the door. Freeland isn't even part of his cabinet anymore and is plotting a leadership run. And Trump doesn't seem to like Freeland either. At least Dominic LeBlanc says he doesn't want to be the liberal leader. That's one positive development. At least he's putting the country before his own political ambitions. You have the foreign affairs minister, Melanie Joly. What's she up to? She's probably going to run for the liberal leadership. Big profile of her in the New York Times just a few weeks ago. She was at Mar-a-Lago just a few weeks ago. We never heard a word about what happened, which tells me it couldn't have gone very well because if it had gone well, it would have been leaked to the media by the Liberals. You have Francois-Philippe Champagne, the industry minister, who's supposed to have all kinds of connections with American industrial leaders and supposed to have all kinds of connections in Washington, D.C. And what's he up to? Well, he wants to run for the liberal leadership. So you have all these liberals. What do they want to do? They want to replace Trudeau. Well, Trump is posting on social media about wanting us to become the 51st state, and Parliament is off for the next 75 days. So it's left up to people like Danielle Smith in Alberta and Doug Ford in Ontario to plead Canada's case on Fox News and CNN. And everyone else who matters in Ottawa has actual power. They're all just MIA and looking out for themselves. Trudeau has scheduled a meeting with the premiers on Canada-U.S. relations. When is that going to be? In a week. a week from today. I guess they all have other things to do. I mean, what is more urgent than this? So it's just a total gong show in Ottawa. You have Jagmeet Singh, the NDP leader. Oh, we have to stand up to the bully. The guy couldn't even stand up to Trudeau for 2 years. It's a mess in this country. I'll tell you that right now. Blake in Calgary. Sorry, Blake, I got a little wound up there. You're up next. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm live now.
You are, sir. Yes, go ahead, Blake.
I'm just looking back at 40,000 feet, that escalator ride that Trump took in 2015, and started with the fake news and the mean tweets there, and where we are today. And I'm kind of wondering if we haven't really been listening close enough, and if we're already there. We're already the 51st state, and we're just being brought along.
Okay. What would suggest that we already are the 51st state then? Sorry.
He seems to tell you what's happened or is about to happen. It's not a joke. I don't think he wastes words.
Okay.
So just connecting dots over what we've watched the last 9 years. I heard about this 3 years ago that we joined the Restored Republic. So I'm just wondering where people are getting their news.
I'm not following along with you, sir. What do you mean? We've already joined a Restored Republic.
When Trump was asked why he ran, he said he was invited. Who invited him? His answer was 200 generals. We're watching not him. He's just a figurehead or a face for who's behind him, who asked him to run. I don't know why you'd accept him if it wasn't for a pretty big reason. A lot of people think it's because he's an ego or whatever.
You don't think it's that?
No. I think it's a lot bigger reason. I don't know why you put your whole family at risk and have your wealth in the twilight years when you should be on the golf course to say yes to something like that.
Power. What about power? Power.
Yeah, could be. But who invited him to run, and why did they invite him? So
all right.
When you go back to the fake news thing, where do people sit on that now 9 years later? It first sounded like a joke.
Yeah.
But people sit a little different now. And so this Canada thing, he just sent out 2 tweets. One saying Canada likes the idea of becoming this. This last one said, many Canadians love being the 51st state. I think he's telling you what's already happened or about to happen, and we're just supposed to talk about it like we are now. I'm sure all of Canada's talking about it. What if it's already done? Just food for thought.
Yeah, certainly a lot to think about there. Thank you for your call. Blake, good to hear from you. We'll be right back. Take some more of your calls. If you're on the line, you'll get on the air before the top of the hour, my promise to you. This is Talkback Midweek Edition. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's talk about Trump and Canada in the 51st state with Michael in Calgary. You're up next, Michael. What's your opinion? Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, hey, Rob. I'm a very proud Canadian, but as of right now, this country is a total gong show. Like the Liberal Party of Canada they have destroyed this country beyond repair. So you know what? It could be a good idea because maybe we need the United States' help because, like I said, Trudeau and his buddies, his posse, they have destroyed this country. And right now, what are they doing? What are they doing? It's a joke. We're a joke right now on the national stage. So this could help us. I hate to say it, I really do, but I know it's not going to happen because Trump's a moron. But anyway, this is just my opinion.
Okay. So why do you think he's saying these things?
Because he knows that we're very vulnerable right now, Canada, and he's just basically he's this, he has all these crazy ideas, like he's probably bipolar or something. Who knows what he has up in that brain of his?
Okay.
But he knows that Canada's in bad shape, so he's just putting those tweets out there and this and that, and to see what the Canadian public are going to say, and half of apparently half of Canada are for this. That's what I heard.
Oh no! It's not anywhere close to that. Some of the polling shows it's between. I mean, it's like 11%. The PPC supporters support it the most.
Oh, okay. I would do that.
Yeah, and but it's not very popular. I think the average is about maybe 13%.
Oh, okay. Well, which is good, but I mean, like I said, like the Liberal government. I mean, we have to do something here. Like we need an election as soon as possible. Like Trudeau's just excuse my language, laughing his ass off right now. Like he's destroyed this country. So that's why Trump's just basically tweeting stuff, and who knows what's going to happen. I'm hoping and praying that we do have an election soon, so we can get rid of the Liberal Party because they are a clown show.
All right, thank you. Good to hear from you, Michael. Thank you. Marlon is up next. Marlon, you're on the air. Marlon, what's your opinion here, Marlon?
Hi, Rob. Love your show, by the way. Second time
Thank
caller.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just heard your conversation with Michael there. I completely agree with him, except for one thing. He said Trump's a moron. I think he's actually he acts like a buffoon, but I think he's smart. You don't get to where he is by being a moron. So I think, he has a point. I can see why they're talking about this, and it's not just him. I'm sure they've been talking about, annexing Canada for many years. And it does make sense, but I don't think I think he's sussing out the waters. I think he's putting it out there, not thinking that will actually happen, but, that he wants to see what kind of reaction, what kind of reaction will Canadians give if I throw it out there. And like Michael said, we're vulnerable right now. It's a perfect time to bring it up again. He brought it up about a month ago. So that's
like a trial balloon. He's floating a trial balloon kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. And
All right.
I mean, when you look at how many hundreds of, I think he said something about an order of $200 billion they're spending on international security just for Canada, it makes sense. Why would you not?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he throws these numbers out. I mean, how accurate are any of his numbers, though? Right. He complains a lot about the trade deficit, but a lot of that trade deficit is energy that's going from Alberta into the United States.
Right.
Which in a lot of cases is then refined and then shipped right back to us. Okay. Thank you, Marlon. I'm going to take one more call. Thank you. Trial balloon. Just kind of testing the waters, Marlon says. Doug, up next. Doug, hi there.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Eisenhower said a very long time ago that if you see something unusual going on, it's planned. If you look at the back of the American $1 bill, it could be expressing what exactly is going on. I'm not giving you an opinion or an idea. On the back of the American $1 bill, on the right is the Great Seal of the United States. On the left is the logo of the Illuminati. Each brick on the Illuminati represents a secret society that's part of the New World Order. The all-seeing eye on the top is the caption of what they consider the ruler of Satan himself. 1776 are the Roman numerals on the bottom when it started, not the age of Confederation. And if you take a look on reading the Latin underneath the pyramid, it's for New World Order. It could be that Trump is now put into position by those that are greater than themselves to start merging North America on the entire goal to turn this into a one-world government.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you though for your call. I'm at a time. Thank you though for throwing it out there, sharing your opinion, speculating. That's part of the fun of it all, I suppose. 1-833-668-2577. We'll be right back and wrap things up for Talkback for today here on News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, David, that was a heck of a 2 hours as we talk about Trump and Canada, tariffs, 51st state.
He has that effect on people.
Busy today.
Yeah. Lots to talk about with Mr. Trump.
My goodness gracious. What a start to this week. Monday, Trudeau resigns. Tuesday, we digest that news. This breaks, and we talk about it all day Wednesday. I wonder what tomorrow will bring, and the day is not done yet. I will say one of the darker scenarios that I have seen and heard out there in the last 24 hours about these Trump remarks is that this is going to happen whether Canadians like it or not. Because this is a new era that we're going to start living in. A new era of imperialism that sees a redrawing of borders. And countries that once existed will no longer exist. I hope that's not the case. I don't know if that's the case. I would hate to think that that's what the world is in store for. But even some callers have mentioned this today. And when this topic has come up before, Donald Trump and his foreign policy ambitions and his affection for Canada. And I mean, there is this term, manifest destiny. The idea that Americans feel as though the whole continent should be American and that it's God's will, it's manifest destiny, that America is so exceptional that it is destined to expand beyond its current borders. So there's that. But there's also this idea that Donald Trump sees himself as a strongman who admires other strong men like Putin in Russia, like Xi in China. And if Putin is going to take Ukraine, Trump won't stand in the way. And if Xi is going to have China take Taiwan, Trump won't stand in the way. And while they do that, he'll have America take Canada. And there's no more Ukraine. And maybe some of those other former Soviet republics, Putin will take those back too, and China will invade Taiwan. And if they're going to do that and everything is up for grabs without consequence, why not grab Canada? And all that oil, and all that natural gas, and all that water, and every other natural resource you can think of. Wars have been fought over less, haven't they? Wars have been fought over less than all the abundance Canada has to offer. I hate to think that that's the world we could live in, but it's certainly a scenario that's out there that people have been mulling in certain quarters. Trump right now, he's not saying we're going to be invaded. Paratroopers aren't going to land on Yonge Street in Toronto anytime soon, but he said yesterday he will use economic force to try and beat Canada into submission. And we are a $2 trillion economy. Yes, large, advanced G7 economy, but we wouldn't last long in any kind of economic war with the United States. And when Trump was asked yesterday about using military force against Greenland and taking back the Panama Canal, he wouldn't rule that out. I remember a caller said just before Christmas, when we were talking about this, before it became serious, Rob, he said, we're going to be the next Ukraine. Canada is going to be the next Ukraine. That's what he thought. I really hope that's not true. But again, what if it is? That's it for us today. I'm Rob Snow. This has been Talkback. Glad to work with David Smith again today. Listen to him on the Big Story podcast. For more on this, he has an extended interview about it on the Big Story podcast, available on your podcasting platforms, as is this show. You can download the Seeker app, Seekr. We're back tomorrow. The latest breaking news is coming up next. This is News Radio.